Alright, so, as a lot of you guys know by now, my PC's dead, yada yada. I've actually, because of this, I have a shit ton of free time now. I don't feel like this mounting obligation to be making videos, because one of my big problems I've always had for quite a while now is that I always feel obligated to make videos, so then I'm not spending my free time playing video games or watching anime, and I had this huge fucking backlog that's been accruing for the last few years. And now I kind of feel like liberated from obligation. I'm like, I don't binge watch some fucking anime. So, like, the first thing I ended up knocking out was Turn A Gundam. This is actually something I started, like, a while back. And when I started it, it was... I had just finished Gundam 00. I finished Gundam 00, and I said I was going to move on to Turn A next, because I had just gotten the Blu-rays. But then I ended up finishing Reconquista and G, and I did a video on that. And I was like, next will be Turn A Gundam. And then it just took me forever to actually finish Turn A Gundam. So I finally sat my ass down and knocked out the rest of Turn A Gundam. And oh man, this was a good one. Like, this is a series that I've had like on my radar for so long, ever since I first heard about this particular Gundam series. First off, it's made by Yoshiyuki Tomino, the creator of Mobile Suit Gundam. After Victory Gundam, he has stepped away from the franchise for quite a while. That's when they started doing all the alternate universe Gundams, G, Wing, X. And then Tomino comes back in 1999 with Turn A Gundam, his big return to the franchise. And just the premise alone of this series fascinated me, because the whole concept is that way long ago, like thousands of years ago, there was this big cataclysmic event that almost wiped out the humanity, made the Earth pretty much uninhabitable, and a bunch of people stayed on a colony on the moon, and that's where they've lived for thousands of years, and hoping that one day that the Earth would be inhabitable again. And then the handful of people who stayed on the Earth for all those thousands of years got blown back to the fucking Stone Age, gradually have built themselves back up over the last few thousand years. Their technology, their level of technology is around that of like the 1800s, like rural America in the 1800s, and they really don't know about their past history or anything that happened before. They kind of have they have like the legends of like the dark history and shit, but even they don't really know what the hell that was. And then you have like these people who are living, and they don't even know about the people on the moon until the people from the moon start like coming down and investigating the Earth, because they're like, okay, the Earth's inhabitable now. We need to start our reclaiming of Earth. That's our homeland too. We're just as entitled to it as the people who already live there. And that's where we get our Gundam platform. Like, first off, let me say, like, all that stuff I just explained, like, that immediately piqued my interest. It's like, you have like fucking like the people of Earth flying around in goddamn biplanes, and like farming and mining, and it's just and then you just have like this colony on the moon, and these people who forgot like their fucking technological culture, and the people on the moon, and like they're wanting to come back. Just that dynamic sounds so fucking interesting to me, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to see this series. Then because it had Tomino's name on it, and I'm like, Tomino may not be the best person, like writer, director, etc. For the Gundam franchise, but he is by far the most interesting. He is such a fascinating individual, at least at least what I've gleaned from him through his art. And so I was really interested in checking out this series. And so like I said, the people on the moon investigating the Earth. And so they end up sending like a 3-man crew down to Earth, and one of these 3 is Laurent Sihak. He is going to be our Gundam pilot. He ends up living with like this mining family as like their chauffeur and butler for like a couple of years. I actually forgot how long he was actually there before like the moon's plans go into effect. I don't know if it was like a year or multiple years, but anyhow, the day that the moon comes down, or the day that the people from the moon come down, because they've already been in talks. a dude named Ewan Reinford. He is kind of like the big representative guy on Earth. He's like one of like kind of, I guess you want to say he's like a world leader. Yeah, because there isn't that much left of the world. Like there's like a few regions left and like a few big players, and that's about it. And he has already been in talks with Queen Deanna of the Moon. So, you know, he knows about the people on the moon. He knows that they're coming. And he's been in preparations for this. And basically, it's the moon wants to come back and reclaim the Earth and have a place to live. And they're like, yeah, we're just going to take like, this region. And them going, okay, you guys can't just fucking do that. Like we're not okay with this. And, like, they're pretty much preparing for a fight. They have no clue what the hell they're up against, but they're preparing for a fight at this point. Because they're not going to really tolerate this bullshit. Of just, yeah, people just coming into their land and be like, yeah, we're just going to take this shit for ourselves because fuck you. And on that same night, Laurent is going through, basically it's like a ceremony for like going into adulthood. And this is like one of the most interesting lore, like world building elements I've ever seen in a show. Because no one directly acknowledges it, but you are able to kind of put it together yourself for the information that they give you. Because part of their ceremony is like you put leeches on your back, and it's just like, oh well, like, you know, like the person who, like, I think like founded their town or whatever, like, you know, founded this region, had like these 6 or 8 markings on their back, and like, yeah, we put the leeches on our back to recreate those markings. And like, you know, like Laurent's like, oh, okay, like, you know, that's the thing. And they do this in front of this big giant statue, this big like mountain carving called like the White Doll. And once the moon people show up, like the moon race show up, the statue cracks, and inside of it is the Turn A Gundam, the big old mustachioed mobile suit that people like to make jokes about. So, like, that is where the Turn A Gundam was the entire time. And when Laurent pilots it for the first time, he gets out and he has these markings on his back. Because, you know, that's apparently like where like the spacesuit would like plug into the seat. So then you're able to put together, oh shit, the person who founded this area that became kind of this legendary figure within like their culture was the pilot was like the last pilot of the Turn A Gundam. Or maybe the only pilot of the Turn A Gundam up until this point. And the reason that they do this ritual is because they had these markings on their back from the plug suit that clicked into the Turn A Gundam. And it's just, it's little things like that throughout this series. Like, that's probably like the most interesting one. Like, that's the one that stood out to me the most, that I really, really dug. But like every so often, like, just the series would just do little things like that. And so yeah, basically, the moon race shows up. Reinford and Deanna are trying to reach like a peaceful agreement. Both of them are trying to take a more pacifistic route to this. But when the moon race first shows up and shit goes down a little bit, one of the moon race accidentally like fires off a beam and wrecks a major portion of a city, killing several people. And this immediately like fucking triggers the common folk of the Earth. And they're like, man, fuck these moon race bastards coming here killing our people. We're gonna fuck these guys up. And even though, and of course, like, the moon race is just like, man, fuck these hillbillies and their fucking biplanes and shit. We're gonna fuck them up. And once the Turn A Gundam is found, this starts, like, this whole excavation thing, trying to find more mobile suits. So they're digging up old, ancient mobile suits to use against, the moon race. And there's, like, all these little hints to the Universal Century that I dug. Like, one of the things that Laurent finds is, like, a weapons chamber, and like the weapon he ends up grabbing first is like the Gundam hammer, like the RX-78's Gundam hammer, or something that's very loosely based on it, or not even loosely based, just something that's very directly based on it. And which is really weird that that's in there, because that was something that Tomino found to be too cartoonish and goofy for Mobile Suit Gundam. So whenever he did the Mobile Suit Gundam movie trilogy, he actually removed the Gundam hammer. Now, the Gundam hammer only gets used like 4 or 5 times, but he just made sure that he ended up removing it from it because he felt that that's too goofy, too super robot. But here, he fucking brings it back, and he brings it back a couple of times. And they also end up like digging up fucking Zaku 2s that they renamed Buongiornos, and that's really fucking cool. So little things here and there. But the most fascinating part of the series is just the dynamic here between, because like unlike most Gundam series where it's just like we're at war, we're gonna have like fights, and like every single episode is usually, there's usually like some big action-packed mobile suit battle, usually in space, or like some cities are getting wrecked, and here it is. Here you have 2 world leaders trying to come to a more peaceful agreement, and really it's kind of the soldiers that are kind of getting into little skirmishes here and there. Everyone's kind of poking and prodding each other's defenses and kind of starting shit here and there. And while at the same time, like, they're trying to reach these peaceful agreements, and just kind of where things spiral out of control from there. And like for the longest time, like I said, like this was a top contender for my favorite Gundam series. And like one of the things I thought I was going to hate in this series, I ended up loving, and that is when Queen Diana Soriel, or Soriel, I don't fucking remember. I'm just gonna call her Queen Diana. So yeah, Queen Diana, she changes places with Kjellheim. Kjellheim is the daughter of the big mine owner, like mining owner that Laurent works for. You know, he's been a servant of this family. He's been like the chauffeur, and like I said, of this family for a while now, and he's been living with them. And like he has like the utmost respect for both for Kale and her sister Sochi. And Kale looks damn near identical to Queen Diana, and they're also voiced by the same person, though she does very different performances for both, and you can clearly hear like, oh, that's Queen Diana, oh, that's Kjellheim. And so, you know, they do like the whole Prince and the Pauper thing, like they swap places, and at first I'm just like, great, we're gonna do this bullshit, because I kind of never liked this storyline in anything. Every time it shows up in anything, I'm just like, oh, I guess we're gonna do this thing again. All right, just wait for that shit to end. And here, here it ends up really benefit. First off, it becomes a major part of the story, because I thought like this is gonna go on for a couple of episodes, and it's just gonna end, and like nothing will really have come from this. Instead, this takes up like a third of the fucking show, maybe like a fourth. Like a fourth of the show is just spent on this whole like Prince and the Pauper switcheroo between these two, and it goes on like that for quite a while. And they use this to explore Queen Diana to such a unique degree, because she's kind of detached from the whole thing, like being royalty. She doesn't really understand things, and she doesn't understand like the perspectives of the people and how they really view the moon race. And here she gets to actually live amongst the moon race, and when she's living amongst them, she gets her hands dirty. She actually like, you know, is acting as like a nurse at one point to like help soldiers who have been hurt, who are seriously fucked up and injured, and she's getting to see firsthand what her coming to the Earth, bringing her people here, and the conflicts that she's created are like the pain she's causing people, and just how much that upsets her on an emotional level, and how devastating this is for her, and how much, you know, she wants like her people to just cut this shit the fuck out, and maybe just, you know, but now she realizes that she's already kind of started this, and she really can't undo it. And also, you know, she still wants her people to live on the Earth. That's the thing. Like, that's still her goal. But she really wants to do it in as peaceful of a manner as possible. Because before, she was a little bit more detached. She was less, You know, like she wanted to reach a peaceful resolve, but if Earth was going to keep putting up fights, you know, she was going to fight. And here, like, you know, we really get to see a big evolution of her character. Just, like, really get some good exploration of her. You know, because when she shows up, she does come off as almost alien. Because, like, she is just, like I said, so detached. And like I said, this takes... They use this stupid-ass Prince and the Pauper thing to completely, like, flesh out this character and give her way more growth than I was ever expecting to see from her. And just humanizing her to such a fantastic degree. And really, honestly, Queen Deanna is the main character. Like, Laurent Sihak is the Gundam pilot. Queen Deanna is the main character. Like, this is her story. She may not show up until, like, a few episodes in, but she really is the crux of everything in this narrative. And it's really fascinating. Like, you know, especially, like, the mere fact that, like, the fact that she's, like, pacifist royalty, too. Because I usually hate that shit. I hated it in fucking Gundam Wing. Fuck Lorena, shit. Oh, Relena Peacecraft. There we go. Fuck Relena Peacecraft. Fuck, what was it? Princess Marina of fucking Istanbulstein, or whatever the fuck it was. Fuck both of those bitches. Fuck that bitch, like I said, like, fuck that bitch from Wing. Fuck that bitch from Double O. Queen Deanna Soriel is an excellent example of how to do this kind of pacifist character right, where, you know, she will kill if need be. You know, she doesn't have this whole thing of, like, oh, war is bad, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, she understands, like, she's far more practical in that, but she wants to keep, you know, the loss of life to a minimum, or just not at all if possible. But she does understand that sometimes things need to be done. So yeah, really goddamn good series for the longest time. And, like, it has all these little Tomino touches that I love. Because Tomino has all these little quirky elements to his characters that I love so much. Like the one, like, really early that stood out to me was, like, Laurent, he has, like, this big old backpack on him. And he goes to, like, bow in respect to Kiel, and because of the weight of his backpack, he ends up just tipping over and just hitting his fucking head on the ground, and then, like, having to pull himself back up. And he does these little quirky things every so often with his characters. You know, he allows his characters to just be a little goofier, to be a little sillier, and to have these little small humanizing moments that I don't see from anyone else, like, in anime. Like I've seen anime where, like, characters are really humanized, and then they're explored, and they're detailed, and they're nuanced, but to just have these quirky little moments, these very real-life moments, like, that almost feel like bloopers that are just inserted into this anime. And there's a few, and I'm completely spacing on the rest of them, but, like, it's that little Tomino touch that I love so much. And it makes these characters just that much more charming, that much more engaging. Like, because all the characters in the show are really fucking good. Well, for the most part. Because, like I said, this was almost my favorite Gundam series. But, like I was really down with this show, and just how weird it was, and how experimental and quirky it was. Like, in a lot of ways, it reminded me of Reconquista and G. Reconquista and G got way fucking weirder. And I think it's actually a little bit more like, you know, Reconquista G I find extremely charming, but fucking bizarre, and it made no fucking sense. Here, the narrative makes complete sense to me. The characters are very charming and very likable, very interesting, very believable, and like the concept is very creative and original. The excuse me. Yeah. Yeah, so this is something that you miss out on with all the edited vlogs I do, is me reaching off screen to go and grab a water because my fucking throat is dry. It's like seeing behind the scenes. So yeah, oh fuck, what the hell was I even saying now? This is another thing you miss out on. Whenever I do this, I'm just like, oh fuck, what was I saying? Oh god, I've completely fucking blanked on what the hell I was talking about. Um, oh no. Oh no. Fuck, why did I get this drink of water? I ruined everything. I can't even, like, stop this and try to remember it or anything. I can only just talk and ramble until I can fucking remember. Oh, right, I was talking about, like, the charming elements of the show, like, how great the characters were. What else was there that I wanted to bring up? Because I'm going to start getting into, like, the major spoilers of the show whenever the series kind of, like, stops being as good. Because, like, this series is so fascinating. Like, there's so many weird little elements to it. There's, like, this guy named Corin who's, like, this weird-ass motherfucker in, like the spandex suit who keeps screaming about Gundams. And he's, like, the only guy who's talking about goddamn Gundams. And, like it's like, oh, well, where the hell's that going to tie in? And then, like, they never fully, like, explain his thing. Like, you pretty much get the idea. Like, you're like, oh, okay, like, I see what they were doing with him. I think, I'm pretty sure, like, 90% sure I get what his character is now. Alright, but no one ever comes out and just spells it out for you. You kind of have to, like, kind of just put those little pieces together as you go. But yeah, oh god, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is, it's Yoko Kanno, which, for those who aren't familiar with Yoko Kanno, she did Ghost of the Shell Standalone Complex, she did Cowboy Bebop, she did Escaflowne. She is my favorite composer. She is so versatile, and I feel like everything she does is just a 10 out of 10 fucking amazing scores. And, my favorite score from her is the score from Escaflowne. Because Escaflowne has this big, bombastic orchestral score. But unlike how I feel about most orchestral scores, where I feel like a lot of orchestral scores are just generically bombastic and, like, and they just kind of just bleed into the backgrounds and they kind of just fade into the backgrounds, and I never really notice them or remember them. Escaflowne was just like every song just pops for me so strong. Possibly because I've watched that show like 10 fucking times. But just, like, that show, like, made me fall in love with Yoko Kanno. And then, then when I found out that she did Cowboy Bebop and fucking Standalone Complex and all these other shows, I'm just like, this woman is limitlessly talented. But I've never heard her do anything like Escaflowne outside of Escaflowne. That kind of big, bombastic orchestral score, until I got to Turn A Gundam. Turn A Gundam, she brings that back, and it is fucking phenomenal. It's just as good. Goddamn it! I feel like I'm overselling it if I say it's just as good as Escaflowne, because I really love the score to Escaflowne. But it's such a good score. It's some of let's say, I mean, it's some of her best work, but I feel like all of her work is her best work. But it's a fantastic score. So that covers all, like, the broad topics that I want to talk about. I want to get more specific. So if you don't want to have Turn A Gundam spoiled for you, I guess dip out now, because I'm about to start spoiling this. Okay, so where this series starts to lose me is shortly after they go into space. Because when they go into space, it's like the last, I want to say, third of the show. Like the last 15 or so episodes of this show. They go into space, and, like, and like the last several episodes have been building up to this, we need to get to space thing. So it's not like, oh, like, this is... But, like, what ends up... And I was really looking forward to it. It's like, oh, yeah, we're going to go to space. We're going to see the moon colony and all this stuff. And all that stuff's cool. But then it's like, I think, like, the show realized, oh, fuck, we don't have an antagonist. So when they go to space, they introduce this poofy-haired fucking samurai motherfucker who's, like, fucking honorable warrior, my warrior spirit, and blah, 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 blah. And basically, he is there to just be a shit starter, and he kind of fucks with the tone of the show, and it's really hard to explain. It's just, like, the tone of the show feels just very different at that point, And like it's no longer about like this very delicate kind of, we're, two opposing sides trying to not go into a full-fledged war. And now it's just, oh fuck, like this crazy motherfucker's starting shit, we need to fight this crazy motherfucker, and now he's like trying to wreck shit on Earth, and now we have to stop him, and we have to have this big fight. And so that is, he just completely throws the tone of Gingham. There we go, that's that son of a bitch's name. Gingham, he completely throws the tone of the show out the fucking window. So yeah, I wasn't a fan of a lot of stuff that he did. Like some of his stuff, like he does end up creating one of the best lines in it, which or setting up one of the best lines, where like he talks about like coming from like a long line of proud warriors and blah blah blah, and I think it was Kaleheim posing as Deanna, because they keep doing that swap back and forth thing to the point where they start fucking with people. It's like, I'm Queen Deanna. No, I'm Queen Deanna. I'm Kaleheim. No, I'm Kaleheim. But I think it was Kaleheim posing as Queen Deanna that tells him, it's like, you come from a warrior race, but yet, you guys haven't fought anything in like 2,000 years because you've been at peace this entire time. Just completely shutting his ass down. It's just like, oh, bitch, got burned. But yeah, like other than that, like he's just, and like there's so much cool shit going on around that, like seeing the people of the moon and how they deal with Queen Deanna and all these other elements, and just like they start exploring the dark history, and you find out like the dark history, and it's just like that's really fucking cool. Which I mean, the dark history is exactly what we thought it was, which is it's the previous Gundam shows. The confusing thing is, though, that it's not just the Universal Century, because they keep saying the Universal Century, the Universal Century, the Universal Century. But then when they show the Dark History, there's like clips from Gundam Wing and Endless Waltz and G Gundam and Gundam X, and it's just like, what the fuck? Like, how do all those shows apparently exist in the same continuity? How? That doesn't make sense. So, yeah, no, I don't, like, I mean, I guess maybe you could say, like, I don't know, like, Gundam X follows the Universal Century, and then, like, then after Gundam X, you have, like, G Gundam, I guess, and then after G Gundam, things go post-apocalyptic, or things go apocalyptic, and then you have Turn A? Where the fuck does Wing fit in? Wing is just, like, a fucking retelling of the One-Year War, basically, except, now the people from space are the good guys. Which, by the way, the Zeon were always the good guys. Fuck anyone who says otherwise. They were an oppressed people fighting for their freedoms. Fuck the Fetties. But, so yeah, like, when I get into it, so that just confused me. I'm like, okay, like, just feels like an extra layer of confusion, and the story never clarifies that for the audience. They never, like, take the time to explain. I really should have gotten more water. Fuck. So yeah, they never clarify that for the audience. What else was it that kind of bugged? The animation looks great for the most part. I think it's a pretty nice looking show. Not like 10 out of 10 gorgeous, but for its time, it looks pretty damn nice. It's really well done cell animation. The only time I don't like the animation is when it's Flash, because for like some effects and stuff, they'll do like Flash animation, or not Flash, but Digipaint. They'll do Digipaint, and we're talking like 1999 era Digipaint, because like in the late 90s, they started experimenting with Digipaint, and they would only use it for doing digital effects, because it's just like, well, Digipaint doesn't really look good overall, but we can use it to use certain effects. So they would use Digipaint for effects, for like a digital effects, and then the rest of it would be cell animated. And when you're looking at this shit in SD with those old-ass renders, you really can't tell. Like, when I first watched Escaflowne as a kid, I couldn't tell the difference between the old, I couldn't tell the difference between the cell animation and the Digipaint. But now that I'm watching this shit on fucking crystal clear, goddamn gorgeous Blu-rays, the cell animation looks top tier fucking gorgeous, and so detailed and so rich and so lush, and it's gorgeous to look at. And then like the fucking digipaint just looks jank as fuck, and like they clearly tried to do some like some remastering shit to it to make it look. Basically, they try to like blur the edges to make it look less pixelated on digital noise reduction, basically type shit. To like try to like smooth out the edges and stuff, so it didn't look so pixelated. But it still looks pixelated, and it's still like more. It's still like a different color palette from the color palette of like the main like cell animation. So yeah, it's always very noticeable when it happens. Think like Dragon Ball Kai whenever it did the redrawn scenes, it looked like jarring fucking dog shit. Except, honestly, I think this has way more artistic merit than those redrawn scenes from Kai, so it's actually less jarring than Kai, but, like things like that kind of bother me, but those are just kind of things of the era, so I can't really hold out against it. And those aren't really things that hurt my opinion of it. Really, the only thing that really hurt my opinion is when they introduced Gingham, and he's this weird motherfucker who just completely throws off the tone of the show. The ending is very anticlimactic and kind of unsatisfying. Like the big final conflict, cause it's just like, oh, like they formed like a cocoon or something, and I'm like, okay, that happened, and then Gingham get, cause it's like the show wanted to avoid having Laurent have to kill Ging, but it's like, or Gingham. Yeah, so Gim. Like, trying to avoid having Laurent kill Gim. But, yeah, because, like, Laurent really tries to avoid killing people throughout most of the show. And that's kind of one of the other problems I have with the show, is that I feel like it shies away from the more violent elements of war. And that's kind of a big thing in Gundam. Like, war is a very, very big thing in Gundam. So to kind of shy away from those elements is a bit disappointing. Because it's just like, well, why not just tackle those elements? Why are you... Because, like, it's like we never really get to see, like, the Devon station. We never get to see, like, really people die. There's, like, one guy who gets killed in one episode. And he's, like... There's, like, his arm is, like, hanging out of, like, his mobile suit. And Laurent's like, no, Queen... no kill. Like, he... Like, that arm might be all that's left of him. And then, like, the next episode rolls around. And... nobody's fucking acknowledged it, that this motherfucker's dead. They don't actually show his body or anything like that. And like, it isn't until, like, about 5 minutes into that episode that they actually even mention the fact that, oh yeah, by the way, that guy totally did die. So it's little things like that where I'm just like, why is Tomino, of all people, shying away from the more violent elements of war? This is kind of what Gundam has always been about, is to kind of show how fucked up war is, and how there really are no clean-cut good guys and bad guys. And I feel like as far as the clean-cut good guys and bad guys, these are some of the most... Like, the Moon Race comes off as the most humanized villains of any Gundam series I've seen so far, where I think they're, like, the most sympathetic. You don't have, like just these complete big bads, like the zombie family that's kind of, overshadowing, like the better people of the Moon Race faction and anything. Except for, like, Gingham. Like, Gingham is, this crazy fucking weirdo who shows up in the last fucking act of the series. But, yeah, like I said, it shows, it does so many fucking things well. And it is so worth watching. It is very much worth watching. I really do recommend it. I guess I really should have said that before I started talking about fucking spoilers and shit. Because I feel like people who dipped out early are not going to realize that, like, I still recommend it, even though, like, because I feel like it took what should have been, like, a 10 out of 10 anime and made it, like, an 8 out of 10. Like, this, like, oh my god, I feel like this should have been my favorite Gundam, and it isn't. It isn't my favorite, unfortunately. And I feel like it really should have been, but it just kind of got it just kind of lost its way at the end there, and... Like I said, like, even like going into space isn't the problem. It's just this one weird motherfucker who takes the thing. Also, oh my god, the very end of it, like, I actually had to, like, look up what the fuck the ending meant, because I didn't quite understand it, because I'm like, wait, so Laurent is with Deanna in a cabin, and I guess Kiel is now posing as Deanna, and, like, Sochi is finally confessed her feelings to Laurent. That's kind of been building throughout the series, okay. But wait, what's up with Laurent, and why is he with Deanna, and why did he leave Sochi, and I had to, like, look that shit up. And I didn't actually catch this, that Queen Deanna was dying from all the cryogenic sleep that she had gone through. Like, she had gone through so much cryogenic stasis for so long, so many times, that it's deteriorated her body, and she is that she is going to die. She is not going to live much longer. So now Kaleheim is going to pose as Queen Deanna. So now, so Queen Deanna can die on the Earth, and I'm like, okay, like, because I remember them saying stuff about, like, her hibernation, how long she's been, and how, like, you know, it's taken its toll on her, but I didn't put that together. And once again, I guess that's also another example of the show not spoon-feeding the audience, so that's really, I feel like that's really more on me not paying close enough attention. I mean, it's definitely on me not paying close enough attention. But yeah, so once I found out, like, oh, okay, she's dying of this, and that's, okay, yeah, then that all made sense. And honestly, the ending I really, really liked. I like the ambiguity of it. If I were the type of person who had more time to just rewatch an anime, like, I would have appreciated, like, I probably would have kind of had, like, that Evangelion thing, where I watch it again and I appreciate it more the second time around. But, yeah, I, like, you know, having to look up to the ending, and once I figured out, put all those pieces together, I'm like, I didn't make that connection, fuck. Yeah, no, like, the ending is really satisfying. Like, the final conflict battle is not, because it involves Gim Gingham, and he fucking sucks, and he just fucking brings down the whole damn show. The turn X is pretty fucking cool. I do like how someone actually brought up, it's like, wait, how do you turn an X? I mean, how is the X upside down? An upside down X is just a fucking X. So that was kind of cute. But yeah, no, great fucking show. It has its problems. Like I said, you know, fucking the last act turns what should have been a 10 out of 10 into like an 8 out of 10 for me. But I think it's really worth watching. If you're expecting it to be this over-the-top, balls-to-the-wall, action-packed Gundam series, you're going to be disappointed. If you're looking for something more unique, something more character-focused, something that explores different ideas from what you're used to in Gundam, Turn A is definitely, easily gets a recommendation from me. It may not be my favorite Gundam, but it is definitely the most interesting that I've seen. Tomino, I always feel Tomino Gundams, like pretty much every Tomino Gundam I've ever seen, I feel is worth watching. Even Reconquista and G, it's not good, but it is so fascinatingly weird that I can't not recommend it to people. And here, it's fascinatingly, like, with Turn A Gundam, it's fascinatingly weird as well, but it also has so much more going on. It's not as weird as Reconquista, but it's definitely the most experimental and odd Mobile Suit Gundam series I've seen. Maybe there's an odder one out there. I don't know yet. But next one I'm going to jump to is going to be Zeta Gundam. So, because I'm going to do Zeta Gundam, Double Zeta, and then Victory. So, and then not all in a row though. I'm breaking that shit up. And we talk about some other animes in the near future. Till next time, guys, Xeon out.